Whole life for me, I love it. I talk about it a lot. I think the beautiful part about it is it solves different problems for different people at different stages of life. What I know to be true is there's not another asset in the world that's going to grow with you like whole life insurance.
Whole life can help you in all the different ways.
It's important to really get clear about your values and what your core values are. Make a list of your core values.
What's going on, Wealth Builders? I got Chris Kirkpatrick here of Life 180. He's somebody who I've had the privilege of actually getting to know pretty deeply over a few days that I had the opportunity to spend with him. He's growing one of the fastest growing life insurance agencies focused on the infinite banking concept. And he also has a fund in the Dominican Republic where he's doing some amazing things, growing an awesome resort, and just really bringing value to the community there. So Chris is multifaceted. He's a very interesting person. And the thing that, I've come to really like about him is just his 100% honesty. He's one of the most honest people that I know, and
It's a curse.
and and his intentions are 100% pure, and I truly believe that. So with that said, Chris, what do you think is the number one thing that prevents people from building wealth in their lives?
Oh man, you said you wanted to keep this to 15 minutes or so. No, I think the biggest challenge with wealth is just a lack of understanding of how to build wealth, a lack of understanding of what wealth even means to you. I know for me, it's a journey. Life is a journey, right? And the idea of wealth to me when I was 25, compared to when I was 35, compared to now when I'm going to be 44 this year, it's evolved. I've evolved. My ideas have evolved. I've got a family now, and my idea of wealth before I had kids and all that stuff was wildly different than it is today. So I think it's like anything else. Stephen Covey, in his book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, one of the top leadership development books or self-development books of all time, always says, you got to start with the end in mind, and you got to reverse engineer a plan, right, to get there. And I think one of the problems that people have with creating wealth is they're not intentional enough about what wealth even means to them, what they don't know how to quantify or identify what it means. And so it's got to be more than a number. It's got to be more than money, because I know plenty of people that are rich that are not wealthy. I know plenty of people that have a lot of money, but they have horrible relationships and bad marriages and bad relationships with their kids and poor health because they pour everything they have into making that money and working 150 hours a week and doing all these things. And so, I used to be the person that would just be like, hey, I'm gonna do whatever I have to do, right? Like I'm gonna grind, I'm gonna work my face off. And I still kind of am cursed with that like work ethic that won't let me stop. And but I believe, like, I enjoy, the good news is I enjoy what I do, and I've reached kind of a happy balance, I think, as much as I can, I suppose. But I think the number one reason people are held back from creating wealth is because they don't even know what they're trying to create. And a confused mind always says no, right? That's a big marketing phrase that we use all the time. So if you're confused about what you're trying to do, and if you're subconsciously not even in alignment with everything, and your money is not in alignment with your values and beliefs, which is just a fancy way of saying, do you even know what you want your life to become? Do you know where you want to go? And if the answer is you're not sure, well, then you're going to have this underlying subconscious battle for your entire life. And that's a battle that you're going to have a hard time winning. So I think, ironically, we got to get better with our money. We got to know where we want to go with our money. But at the same time, it doesn't start with just our money. It starts with what our goals and objectives are, what we want our legacy to be, what we want our imprint in this world to be. I just am a big believer, like, we have a responsibility to leave the world better off than what we inherited, and so that means different things to different people, right? Like a lot, and that's the cool part, right? Like a lot of people could say, wow, I agree with that, right? But like your definition of like making it better and my definition of how I can make it better, or your skill sets to make the world a better place versus my skill sets, we can make our own little impact, right? And so I just don't like cookie cutter answers. I don't like cookie cutter solutions where it's just like, you need to go to school, get a job, put your money in a 401k and just like save 20% of your income and put all your money in 401ks and qualified accounts and do all this stuff, because it's like, it's been proven it doesn't work. Like, just to follow like your solutions. And if you are not living in alignment with your values and beliefs, and you haven't gotten really, really clear on that, you are going to struggle with your money. That's my long-winded answer.
Well, you brought up a lot of solid points. 100%. One of the key takeaways that you started off by saying is that, what we don't really consider is we have different stages of our lives, right? Like when you're in your 20s, you're in a completely different mindset. You can't really even think into your 30s. And then when you're in your 30s, you can't even really think into your 40s. Yeah. And it isn't until when you're in your 50s where you're thinking about retirement. So we have all these different stages of life that we go through. And it's just important to know that what those next stages are going to be in the future. But another key thing that you brought up is being intentional. Being intentional with everything that you do. One of the hardest things with getting in alignment with your values and beliefs around money and building wealth and discovering what wealth is for you is how holistic that approach should be. And there's so many different facets behind that whole concept, which makes it, kind of difficult to really pinpoint the different ways of how you should, approach your money. Because like you said, it's incredibly important to figure out what's right for you and what works for you, because we all have different values and beliefs. And, to really build that wealth and to be congruent with everything, because it's a holistic thing. It's, it's your health, it's your money, it's your spirituality. All of those things are working together. And if you can get all of that in alignment, then you're going to live, much more, I'm losing the, just
fulfilled.
Yeah, exactly. Fulfilled. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
So Chris, tell me, how does whole life fit into, your values and beliefs around money? Because I know, you're a big whole life guy, and right. And you have a whole agency that's based off of it, but how do you approach that whole concept?
Yeah, it's interesting. I love whole life insurance. I love it because of all the different ways that it can help people. Ironically, I sell more whole life insurance to people by not selling whole life insurance, because I don't believe I can go in and try to sell whole life insurance to somebody and have it make sense to them. Because until you are really, really clear on your values and beliefs and what you want to accomplish with your money and what you want your legacy to be, and what you're scared of, like, honestly, being real vulnerable about, like, what are some fears about what you have about retirement and the different problems and that you need to have solved in the retirement game, because that's something that comes into play for a lot of people as well. If you're not able to think long enough term and really, really be intentional about protecting yourself against all the risks and preparing yourself for all the opportunities that exist in that ecosystem, you're gonna have a hard time. And so, like, for me, I could sit here and talk to Charles and know by who he is and what his values are, and like the fact that he's got a family, and watch how he is with his wife, and watch how he is with his kids, and watch how he is with his work ethic, and listen to what he talks about with the political spectrum and all these different things. I could listen to him and be like, I know this guy. I should just go sell him whole life insurance, right? But even then, even as well as I know Charles, I would never lead with being like, hey, Charles, this is what you need, and here's why. What I need to do is I need to ask him questions, because there may be something I'm missing, And what I also believe is, it's not my job to sell anybody anything. It's my job to lead people down a path of self-discovery where they come to their own conclusions, right? Because I've made plenty of buying decisions in my life, and whenever I get sold on something, there's always an element of buyer's remorse, right? Like, I don't ever want anybody to have buyer's remorse, because this is kind of a product that you should never have buyer's remorse. And I think the reason that it has so many problems is because people are sold it improperly, and there is buyer's remorse because people don't even understand what they're sitting on when they have a whole life policy. And one of the saddest things I ever hear is somebody being like, I surrendered and cashed out my 15-year-old like policy, whole life policy. And it's just like, do you realize what you just did to your family? Like, and do you realize like the asset you were sitting on? And the answer is no, they didn't. Otherwise they wouldn't have done it, you know? And so like, I just think whole life for me, I love it. I talk about it a lot. I think the beautiful part about it is it solves different problems for different people at different stages of life. You know, if you're a 20-year-old, you need to save money. You're probably never going to be more healthy than you are right now. Start saving for your emergency fund. Start building an emergency fund. Start developing yourself. Start investing in yourself. Become who you need to be to live the life that you say you want to live. If you don't know what that life is, start there. Figure it out. You know, get really intentional. Think long term. You don't have kids right now, probably, but think about whether you want them or not, what that's going to look like, what it's going to be like to be a grandparent. Like, what does a legacy mean to you? And that doesn't just mean generationally, like from a money perspective. It's like, what values do you want to imprint? Like, I grew up with not much. You know, I grew up with a lot of love, but not a lot of education around money, not a lot of focus on freedom. To this day, my parents and my family still is confused about what I do. You know, nobody can understand my lifestyle. Nobody can understand what I've created for myself because it's so outside of the realm. My grandfather was wildly successful, brilliant GE engineer, you know, multiple time GE National Engineer of the Year, helped develop the weapon system for the Apache helicopter and all that stuff. But still then, and he made a lot of money, did a lot of things, had a lot of real estate. I learned a lot of stuff from him. But I still wouldn't want his life. You know what I mean? And you could look at my grandfather and from the outside looking in, a lot of people might be like, oh, that's success. And to me, it's like, that's prison. Like having to go to the same job and work for the same company and do the same thing every day. And like, that would be life sucking to me, you know? And so you got to know yourself. You got to know what legacy you want to live. You got to know what values you want to pass on. And, you know, and then you got to use money as a tool to create an ecosystem that will allow you to pass that forward and leave these principles and create structure around empowering the next generations and multiple generations to come to be able to do it. And what I know to be true is there's not another asset in the world that's going to grow with you like whole life insurance. It's, you know, because you can't screw up. If you're 21 right now and you're like, I'm never healthier, I'm like, but you don't know if you're going to want kids, right? Like you don't know if you're going to get married. And obviously maybe you want to, but you still don't know if it's going to happen. Let's be real, you know, might be a hard time to find a girl to like you, you know, like, I don't know. But like it like if that's the case, I promise you still need an emergency fund. And I promise you're still going to want a volatility buffer in retirement, even if you don't know what that means right now. You know, like the policy will grow with you to help solve different needs. And God forbid you ever get cancer or, you know, diabetes or something of that nature, you're going to want it. You know, it's going to be there. It's going to help solve different problems throughout the phases of your life. And you just got to be able to think enough about the long term and make sure you design the asset the way it's meant to be designed to be able to help you solve those problems. And that's what I love about it. I could literally talk to a 21-year-old and I could talk to a 70-year-old. And the different problems are going to be, there's going to be a big gap between the 21-year-old and the needs of the 70-year-old, right? And the wants of the 70-year-old and the clarity that each of them have about the different things that they're looking for. But the beautiful part is that whole life is so flexible that, you know, we can design it, you know, in most situations. It's not the right situation all the time. It's not the right product all the time, for sure. But in most situations, I can talk to people and get them to see like, oh my gosh, like this would help solve that problem, you know? And that's my favorite part about what we do is seeing the light bulbs come on for somebody when they finally get it. You know, Nelson Nash always said, infinite banking isn't something you learn, it's something you catch, right? And what I love is like, when I'm looking at somebody in the eyes, whether it's on a Zoom meeting or across the table or whatever form in a training or whatever, an agent, a client, whatever, when you see it, you can literally see it when they're like, oh my God, I just got it. I just got it. Like it just, all of a sudden it makes sense, you know? And it's like, it's different. The thing that like triggers people over that line, it's different for everybody. But it's so cool to watch.
And I think that's one of the hardest things to grasp. And there,
Yeah,
there's so much, we always say this, but there's so much misinformation in the marketplace.
totally.
And there's so many polarizing opinions out there that it's hard
Mhm.
to grasp how whole life can help you in all the different ways, because when people attack it, they're typically attacking it in a singular focus. They're not grasping it from the holistic approach, from looking at all the different things that it does, and creating that conclusion, because it's a hard thing to process, because there's so many different uses
Yeah,
that it can solve problems for people, right?
for sure. For sure.
But Chris, tell me, how should a person what should a person do to discover their own values and beliefs?
That's so hard. It's I think it's just about being intentional, thinking long term, questioning, like really asking yourself, what are the things that really get you riled up? What are the things that make you uncomfortable? What are the things that get you excited? I think about it all the time. I love to push myself. I love to be in this kind of never ending cycle of personal growth. I love the game of it all. I love the game of life, and I think that's another thing that whole life insurance does, is it allows you to like purchase the result at the end of the day. And so like no matter what happens, even if I fail horribly at my ventures in the game of that I'm playing, like I win in the end, because like I know I have this death benefit that's going to self actualize and self complete, and my family's going to get exactly what I want. And so it's again, um, I'm going to be able to work through that, right? And I'm going to be able to gamify the rest of my life. And to me, that's a big deal, because now I'm able to have fun, and I'm able to like be with my kids. I got a 12-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 5-year-old, right? And I'm trying to teach them principles, and I'm trying to get them out of the US, and we're living down in a fishing village in the Dominican Republic. And there's these like trying to teach these different principles and go through these different life experiences, and not get drowned out by the mundane elements of life, and not succumb to all the noise in the world around us, and stay focused on what I think is important, what I think I was put on this earth to do, which is to create, which is to create the agency, to create content, to create value, to develop myself. And I take that with a responsibility, right? So I think you got to get to know yourself better. I think the challenge is people just don't know themselves well enough. The people were so focused on the media and the noise, and listening to Fox and CNN and Drudge Report and all these places, right? Like, and going all over the place. And you're so focused on that, you just got to take the time and go internal, and think about yourself, think about what you actually truly value. If none of that existed, what would you want for your life? If politics didn't exist, if money didn't even exist, like in a perfect world, if you knew you could have it, what would you want, right? Like if you knew you could have that result, what would your life be? What would you want? What would you go for, right? People most of the time don't do what they want to do because of fear. I know that, like that was me for a long time. Like you're scared you're going to fail. Like you're scared you're going to succeed, and that's a lot of people, most people, that's the case. And I would just say, what's really important, I think, for people to understand is like, you got to get to know yourself, because if you don't know yourself now, it's impossible to even try to get to know yourself 50 years from now, and if you don't know that, then it's really hard to really get clear on what your values and beliefs actually are. Or are you just living your life for other people, which is a miserable way to be, right? And so you got to start living life on your terms, living life for you, for your goals and objectives, and get clear on all that. And when you are, now you're going to be able to say, all right, this is what I truly value, this is what I truly believe in. Now, rather than just saying, oh, I'm putting my money here or there because somebody said I should, you're going to be able to have the ability to be like, I'm not just putting my money into an account because it gets me a return. I'm putting my money in a place that provides attributes that help me solve different problems, or help provide different values in my life based on what I actually believe. And I think we need to stop thinking so much about return and start thinking about results, actual results in our life, right? And I think if people start thinking like that, the world would just be a wildly different place.
Agreed. And you know, I've heard a statistic where 95% of the time we're operating from our subconscious state,
100%.
which means we're only conscious 5% of the time. And that's where the intentionality comes into play, becoming intentional with things, right? So you can break it down, and your subconscious will run off the things that you actually want them to run off. Because I think one of the biggest challenges that a lot of people have, and I've been a victim of this too, is we just go through life and we're not even thinking about, you know, where we're putting our money or what we're doing, and we're chasing the biggest return, right? But if we're not thinking about the long game, and we're not thinking about the stress that maybe a risky investment might have on us or our family, and our family life starts falling apart, and all those different factors aren't accounted for, it, you know, you'll just have a better life by being more intentional with the approach, right?
That's it, man. And so much of this happens off of the balance sheet, off of the spreadsheet. Like, they're the things that are not quantifiable or calculatable. You know, for me, it's lifestyle. You know, I made the decision a long time ago. My values and beliefs, one of my core values is freedom, period. You know, and my wife and I made the decision a long time ago that if any financial decision that would equal more money but hinder our freedom came to the table, we would say no, right? But if you're not intentional about what your core values are and what you're going to prioritize over everything else, and you're not willing to be uncompromising in that, then it's really easy to fall down that trap. Because if I wasn't intentional about the fact that freedom is my number one core value, period, okay? Freedom is my number one core value. So then if I had somebody that came to me and said, hey, Chris, and by the way, this has happened, okay? I'm not going to give names or numbers, but somebody came and they offered me a lot of money. It was a company to go and basically be the head trainer, right? They offered me mid six-figure bonus just to join, which would be great, right? And then a big income all the way around. But I'd have to give up my freedom. I would have had to relocate my family, work out of an office, not be able to travel, and all that stuff. Like, to me, that is a direct violation of my core value. And, you know, it made it so rather than get excited, I instantaneously squashed it. It wasn't even a thought. It was a reactive, like, hell no. You know what I mean? But for somebody else that wasn't really clear on, like, my number one core value is freedom. Now you get offered that deal with that company and have that kind of prestigious opportunity put upon you. Now it would be easy to get gobbled up in it. And then maybe a year or 2 years down the road, be like, what did I do? I'm miserable. I hate my life. I'm making a lot of money. And what do I have to show for it? Probably a bad relationship at home, because I'm always working and I'm a slave to the job, and I'm always away from home, and I'm always at the office, and my kids want to see me. And, you know, I want to be doing all these things and traveling the world and living life for experiences, because that's another thing that I need to have. And 3 weeks of vacation a year to me is just not quite enough. I'm sorry. You know, like, it's easy to get stuck down that. And that's just my one kind of like extreme example. But like, we have little micro decisions like this all the time, where we make these little micro circumstances where we compromise on our values because we don't even know what they are, and we don't even realize we're doing it. And then before you know it, you get to life and you're like, how the hell did I get here? Right. And I think it's important to like really get clear about your values and what your core values are. Make a list of your core values, you know, and work with your spouse. You know, if you're old enough and you're married and whatever, if you're single and young, well, then do it by yourself. But if you're married, do this with your spouse. My wife and I did it together, and we were amazed that we had like a lot of alignment. We had some separation, right? Like we also had some differences because we're different people, right? And what's absolutely truly fulfilling to me is not absolutely truly fulfilling to my wife. And so you got to navigate that, right? They got to balance that out and compromise and all these things. And that's another thing. If we didn't do that, if we weren't intentional about that, it'd be pretty easy for me to just go after what I'm going after and just kind of steamroll her And then she gets miserable, and we do all these things. And now all of a sudden my marriage is up in flames and my kids are getting estranged, you know, like all this stuff. And that's the kind of stuff, if you don't do, man, it's like life gets really hard. You know, if you're willing to do the hard work up front and be intentional and take the time and, you know, whatever, it's amazing. You know, just unplug from Netflix for like, you know, 5 hours a week, you know, and just go do this and figure it out for a while.
Definitely. And me personally, I'm in just this weird transitional stage of my life where I have that high income job, and you know, it's completely against my values and beliefs, and I hate it. And I wake up every morning at 1 a.m. and I just walk in there fucking miserable, just fucking miserable, hating life because it's against my values and beliefs. And so it's just this like uncomfortable stage of my life where like at some point I need to cut the umbilical cord from the job and, you know, let my wings spread and, you know, grow from there. And so that's a scary transition, but it's something that has to happen because I don't want to be, you know, tied to that job, golden handcuffs.
For sure. But here's the deal. Like, and you and I have gotten to know each other pretty well. And, you know, you have that job, you're miserable. You know, we've talked about that a lot, but here's the deal. You're now working more than you've probably ever worked. Right. But my guess is you feel better about everything because you at least feel like you have a solution now and you can work towards something and you have an objective and you're clear about your values. And the more you do it, the more you believe it, and the more you believe in it, the more excited you are for it. And like the extra work doesn't feel draining. It feels like invigorating. Right?
Definitely.
You know, but that's the thing that like people ask me like, how do I work so much? How do I just never stop? How do I get so much done? It's because I freaking love what I do. You know, like I wake up every day and I feel blessed. I feel so fortunate that I get to live the life that I live and that I've had the things line up in the right way, that I've been able to create through hard work and good luck and, you know, good timing and all these things to be able to do what I'm doing. And I never take it for granted, you know, and I feel grateful. I feel grateful for, you know, to the universe and to God. And I feel grateful to, you know, the people in my life. I feel grateful to the people that are entrusting me, you know, the followers of the YouTube channel, the people on the team, like all this stuff, you know, and all that to say, like, you know, doesn't mean I'm always going to get it right every time, you know, whatever, but like, enjoy the journey, like enjoy the creation. And like, you were like, I truly believe we were all put on this earth to do something special, like every single person. And it's going to be different for everybody in our own little ways. And you're going to have your own little way to be able to make an impact and to make a change. And it's our job, it's our responsibility to identify what that is and to really connect with it. And that's where flow comes in. You know, that's where when you identify it and you're able to live in it, now you're going to be operating in this like flow state that is just like, you're going to be fulfilled every single day. You're going to wake up excited, energized, not drained. I get sad sometimes when it's the weekend because I'm like, I don't get to do my thing. Like I gotta just like chill and like go hang at the beach in the Caribbean. Like, I don't want to do that. Like I gotta just go horseback riding. And like, I mean, I love hanging out with my kids and stuff, but like, I kind of, you know, I love what I do.
You have that entrepreneurial disease where you just have to keep creating because that's what it is. You got to keep pushing forward, man. Keep creating.
Yeah. Well, I feel a responsibility because I think what we do is so important, you know, and there's so much what I would call bad information out there that we have a responsibility to create, you know, information that interferes with the bad stuff, you know, and interrupts it. And, you know, so yeah, I mean, it's a tough situation, but it's a good situation, you know, like it's, and it's cool. Like, I mean, I work every day and I work a lot, you know, even on the weekends a lot of times, but like, I also get to like take, you know, like today I took 2 hours off and I took a motorcycle ride, or I took my 5-year-old daughter who wanted to go on a dirt bike ride. Right. So like, I just took her and we went ripping on a dirt bike for a couple hours and put her on the front. And, you know, she's like, it was the coolest feeling in the world. Like she's on the dirt bike in front of me and she's got her little helmet on and she's just like doing the the Kate
The
Beckinsale
airplane, yeah.
Titanic thing, like just airplane on the front of the bike, and she's just loving life. She's 5 years old, and she doesn't even know how good she's got it, living on a Caribbean island right near the ocean, like driving dirt bikes like along the coast and whatever. And it's like, oh my gosh, but like I get to do that in the middle of the day if I want, when I get a little time, because I make my own schedule. So like that's the kind of stuff that I do, and that's the freedom that I value, to be able to do that. You know what I mean?
And
Nobody's going to tell me what I can and can't do.
And that's what you've been able to create with Life 180. So if anybody's watching this and is interested in becoming an agent, contact www.life180.com and fill out a form, talk with Matt, and he'll get you tuned up with how to start.
Tell him though that you saw this through Charles, because Matt needs to know. Because yeah, it's good.
He needs to know.
He needs to know. Yeah, I mean it's good stuff. I mean, I think what we're doing is really cool. I love it. I think my passion is really helping agents, because I really want to help 1 million people, get impacted in this, in this space. Clients, really start implementing the processes and the principles that we teach. I can't reach 1 million people on my own. I mean, unfortunately, like life insurance YouTube channels have a hard time growing to 1 million people. We may get there eventually. Who knows? Maybe I'll just diversify and go a little wider. But that said, if we can get 5,000 to 10,000 agents that are all making an impact on a bunch of people, well, now we can have the ripple effect of impacting 1 million people, because it's not me wanting to directly, it's just wanting to have the impact on 1 million people. It don't need it to be my ego or anything of that nature. I'd love to, just to see 1 million people doing what we do, because I just truly believe that if we did, it would actually have a ripple effect on how the economy functions. Because imagine 1 million people in the US having complete control, 1 million new people having complete control of their finances and being completely empowered to take control of the results in their financial life, and to actually be clear about their core values and go out and chase it with reckless abandon, and just go after it and do it. To me, that's the exciting stuff.
Definitely. So Chris, tell us how we can get a hold of you, and tell us how we can learn a little bit more about your fund.
Oh yeah, man, we didn't even go there, did we? Yeah, so I'm down in the DR. I launched my company. It's called Cashflow Hacking. I wrote a book called Cashflow Hacking, but the fund is the Cashflow Hacking Investment Fund LLC. You can go to cashflowhacking.com. You can learn about the fund there. But the fund was kind of born because I was looking for opportunities in the US. I couldn't find anything that I was comfortable putting my own money into. And so we found some opportunities down here in the Dominican Republic that completely blew away anything I'd found in the US. And with that, we came down here, we checked out some opportunity, found more opportunity, and decided to launch a private equity fund. It is for accredited investors only. But in doing that, go to cashflowhacking.com and you can check it out. We bought this hotel overlooking the ocean. It's 10 rooms right now. We're expanding it. It's going to be 48 rooms in the next 24 months. We're turning it into a full-on retreat center because they're much more profitable, quite frankly. And they're easier to market and fill and all that stuff. I moved my wife and kids down here because I was like, if I'm going to invest and put money into something like that, I'm going to dedicate my life to making sure it succeeds. So I relocated my family. We live right across the street from the property. My studio here is actually on the property. And I'm excited. Anybody that wants to get involved, we are still raising money for the expansion. I will be raising money over the next couple of years to build out and do the expansion and open up other opportunities in the area as well. So cool. Cashflowhacking.com.
And it's a good way if you want to diversify your citizenship. It's pretty low barrier to entry to become a Dominican Republican citizen.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind.
Good. Yeah, there's definitely getting residency set up first, and then you can get dual citizenship lined up after that if you want. Lots of tax benefits that come along with it, as I'm sure people could imagine. But yeah, it's amazing. I love it down here, and I love the experience, and I have the freedom, and it's amazing how freeing it feels just being in an environment like this, being able to run my business in the US from down here and go back and forth and all this stuff. So yeah, anybody has any questions, go to cashflowhacking.com, reach out. You can also email Chris at life180.com if you need anything. If you are an agent watching this and you're interested in joining, like Charles said, just reach out to Matt at life180.com and he'll have a call with you as well.
Sweet. Well, until next time, everybody. Catch you again.
Thanks, guys.